In the heart of Seattle, a city known for its vibrant culture and scenic beauty, a chilling tale of love, jealousy, and murder unfolded, leaving the community in shock and disbelief.
She had goals when she got back. She wanted to start doing eyelashes, do well for herself financially. She had goals for herself and for us.
Maricela Botello was the kind of person who lit up a room the moment she walked in. At just 23 years old, she had an adventurous spirit, a contagious laugh, and an insatiable curiosity about the world. She had grown up in Seattle, a city known for its coffee culture, tech industry, and scenic beauty, but she never let the gray skies dampen her enthusiasm for life. Those who knew her described her as bold, fearless, and always up for an adventure. In early October 2020, Maricela decided to take a short trip to Dallas, Texas, to visit a friend. It wasn't her first time traveling alone. She thrived on spontaneity and loved exploring new places. She had no idea that this trip would be the last one she would ever take. On the night of October 4th, Maricela and her friend ventured into Deep Ellum, a neighborhood known for its electrifying nightlife. The streets were alive with music, laughter, and the hum of conversation. Bars and clubs lined the sidewalks, their neon signs casting colorful glows over the pavement. It was the perfect place for a night out, lively, unpredictable, and full of possibilities. Dressed in a sleek green dress that complemented her vibrant personality, Maricela exuded confidence. She was in her element, moving effortlessly from one bar to another, embracing the energy of the city. At one of the clubs, as the bass of a hip-hop track thumped through the speakers, she caught the attention of Charles Beltran. Beltran was an aspiring rapper with a smooth charm and a confident swagger. He had a presence that demanded attention, the kind of charisma that made people lean in when he spoke. He was tall, with a well-groomed beard and a laid-back demeanor that made him seem effortlessly cool. Maricela was drawn to him. Maybe it was the way he carried himself, the way he spoke, or simply the thrill of meeting someone new in an unfamiliar city. Their conversation flowed easily, fueled by drinks and the excitement of the night. They danced together, laughing, caught up in the moment as the night stretched on. As the hours passed and the club began to thin out, Maricela made a fateful decision, one that countless young women have made on a night out. She agreed to leave with Beltran. Maybe she thought it was harmless, just an after-party or a casual hookup. Maybe she wasn't ready for the night to end. Maybe she simply trusted him. Security footage from that night captured Maricela and Beltran walking out of the club together around 1 a.m. The grainy video showed her following him down the street, unaware that she was stepping into a nightmare. It was the last time she would be seen alive. Her friend, who had been out with her earlier in the evening, grew concerned when Maricela never returned. Calls to her phone went unanswered. Text messages were left on delivered but not read. The next day, when she still hadn't heard from Maricela, the sinking feeling that something was wrong became undeniable. At first, there was hope. Maybe she had met someone and lost track of time. Maybe she was just sleeping off a hangover. But as the hours turned into a full day, then 2, then 3, the fear became unbearable. Maricela had vanished without a trace. No one knew where she had gone, but one thing was certain. She hadn't planned to disappear. Her phone, which was always glued to her hand, had gone silent. Her social media, usually buzzing with activity, was frozen. Her family, back in Seattle, had no idea that their daughter was missing. As they scrambled for answers, the only clue they had was that last piece of surveillance footage, Maricela, young and full of life, walking into the Dallas night with Charles Beltran, unknowingly stepping into the deadliest encounter of her life. Maricela Botello had no idea that the man she left the club with that night wasn't just another charismatic stranger. Charles Beltran was already deeply entangled in a complicated and toxic relationship, one that had been built on secrecy, control, and financial dependence. At the center of this twisted dynamic was Lisa Dykes, who played a pivotal role in shaping Beltran's life. While their relationship was unconventional, it had its own set of unspoken rules. Lisa wasn't just his girlfriend. She was his financial provider, the one who paid his bills, supported his music career, and, in many ways, controlled him. She had the power, because she had the money. Beltran wasn't exclusive to Lisa. Their relationship was polyamorous, meaning both were free to see other people. But in reality, Lisa had always been the dominant force in their arrangement. She had tolerated Beltran's flings before, but deep down, jealousy simmered beneath the surface. To make things even more complicated, Lisa was legally married to another woman, Nina Morano. Nina was quieter, more reserved, and often took a back seat in their relationship. She wasn't the jealous type, not in the way Lisa was. Nina had come to accept Lisa's dominant personality, her ability to control situations, and her unpredictable temper. But there were limits. There was a balance to their unorthodox household, and introducing new women into the mix, especially someone young and attractive like Maricela, was bound to disrupt it. Lisa had invested too much into Beltran to let another woman come between them. She had molded him, funded him, and, in her mind, owned him. And when she found out that he had brought Maricela home to their shared space in Mesquite, Texas, something inside her snapped. Beltran, either too reckless or too confident in Lisa's tolerance, hadn't thought much about the potential consequences. Maybe he assumed Lisa would look the other way, as she had before. Maybe he believed that because their relationship was open, this was just another fling. But Lisa didn't see it that way. When she returned home in the early hours of the morning and discovered Maricela there, it wasn't just a betrayal. It was an insult, a slap in the face. Lisa's jealousy wasn't just about Beltran sleeping with another woman. It was about power. She had kept him under her financial thumb for years, making sure he relied on her. She had tolerated his wandering eye, but bringing a stranger into their home was a humiliation she couldn't accept. The tension in the house was immediate. Lisa wasn't the type to express her anger with words. She was a woman of action. The rage that had been simmering for years exploded into something uncontrollable, something deadly. Maricela, completely unaware of the tangled mess she had walked into, had no idea that she was now in danger. In her mind, this was just a spontaneous night out, a casual hookup with a man she had met at a bar. She didn't know that she had unknowingly entered a web of possessiveness, manipulation, and unchecked rage. And in that moment, she had become the enemy. Lisa wasn't going to let this go. And as the minutes ticked by, the house in Mesquite, Texas, transformed into a powder keg, one that was about to explode in the most horrific way imaginable. Lisa's temper had always been volatile. She wasn't the type to take betrayal lightly, and in her mind, this wasn't just about Beltran cheating. This was about humiliation. It wasn't just another woman in his life. It was a stranger, someone he had picked up at a bar and brought into the space she controlled. The confrontation was immediate. Lisa's voice, sharp and venomous, cut through the air as she demanded answers. Who was this woman? What was she doing in her home? Maricela, caught off guard, had no idea what was happening. Maybe she tried to explain, to de-escalate, to insist she had no idea about the tangled relationship she had stepped into. Maybe she thought this was just an argument between a couple, something she could walk away from. But Lisa wasn't listening. The rage inside her had reached a boiling point, and something inside her snapped. Without warning, Lisa lunged at Maricela, attacking her with a fury that was as sudden as it was brutal. A knife in her hand, a flash of silver, and then pain. The first stab was fast, deep, and shocking. Then another, and another. Blood sprayed across the room. The house, once filled with the quiet hum of the late-night hours, was now consumed by screams. Charles Beltran, the man who had brought Maricela here, had a choice in that moment. He could intervene. He could stop the attack. He could do something. But instead, he ran. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was self-preservation. Maybe he knew that Lisa's rage was unstoppable and that getting involved would only put him in danger too. Whatever the reason he left, he abandoned Maricela, leaving her to bleed out on the floor, her cries for help fading into the silence of the house. The attack was relentless. Lisa, consumed by fury, made sure Maricela wouldn't leave alive. And when the life finally drained from Maricela's body, when the scream stopped and the only sound left was the ragged breathing of her killer, Lisa stood over her lifeless form, her hands slick with blood. It was over, but the worst was yet to come, because now there was a body, and Lisa, along with her wife Nina Morano, had to figure out what to do next. The body lay still on the cold floor, the metallic scent of blood thick in the air. The house in Mesquite, Texas, was eerily silent now, the chaos of the brutal attack giving way to an unsettling stillness. Lisa Dyke stood over Maricela Botello's lifeless form, her pulse still racing, her hands slick with blood. She had done it, acted on the rage that had been bubbling inside her. But now, the reality of the situation was sinking in. There was no taking it back. Maricela was dead. And now, there was only one question left. What do we do next? Lisa wasn't alone in this. Her wife, Nina Morano, had been in the house too. Nina hadn't participated in the murder, but she wasn't innocent either. She knew what Lisa was capable of, and now, she was just as trapped in this mess. They had a dead body in their home, a woman who had people who would miss her, who would come looking for her. Time was against them. Lisa and Nina quickly shifted into survival mode. They had to get rid of the evidence, erase any trace of what had happened here. The cleanup began immediately. Every drop of blood, every piece of fabric that might have absorbed the horror of what had just occurred. It all had to go. They scrubbed the floors, wiped down surfaces, and disposed of anything that could connect them to the crime. They moved swiftly, methodically, as if they had done this before. But no matter how much they cleaned, the weight of what had happened couldn't be erased. Maricela's body still lay there, an undeniable reminder of the crime that had just taken place. They needed a way to dispose of her. The plan they came up with was as grim as the crime itself. Lisa and Nina wrapped Maricela's body in a tarp, binding it tightly to conceal the gruesome truth. They carried her out of the house under the cover of darkness, their hands trembling with adrenaline and fear. They drove nearly 30 miles to Wilmer, Texas, a rural area far enough from Mesquite to avoid suspicion. It was the kind of place where few people would venture, where the land stretched for miles without prying eyes. They believed it was the perfect spot to hide the evidence of their crime. Under the vast Texas sky, they dumped Maricela's body in a secluded patch of land, leaving her in a place where they hoped she would never be found. They didn't give her a burial, no dignity in death, just a body discarded like an object, as if they could erase her existence entirely. Days passed, then weeks. Maricela's family, back in Seattle, was growing frantic. She wasn't the type to vanish without a trace. She always kept in touch, always let people know where she was. When her phone went silent, when messages were left unanswered, they knew something was terribly wrong. Her loved ones launched a desperate search, pleading for any information. Flyers were distributed. Social media posts went viral, and her case began making local news. The last known footage of her, walking out of a club in Deep Ellum with Charles Beltran, became the focal point of the investigation. Where had she gone after that? The pressure was mounting, and Lisa and Nina knew they couldn't keep their secret forever. Then, in March 2021, 5 months after her disappearance, a grim discovery was made. A body had been found in Wilmer, Texas, badly decomposed but still identifiable. It was Maricela. The search for her had come to a devastating end. But for Lisa and Nina, their nightmare was just beginning, because now the police had a crime scene, and the hunt for her killers was about to intensify. The moment Maricela Botello's remains were discovered in March 2021, the case took a sharp turn. What had once been a missing persons investigation had now become a full-fledged homicide case. Law enforcement knew they were no longer searching for a lost young woman. They were hunting a murderer. The autopsy confirmed what detectives had feared. Maricela had died a violent death. The wounds on her body, the way she had been left in the remote area of Wilmer, Texas, it all pointed to a brutal attack. Someone had wanted her gone, and the evidence was already starting to lead to the people responsible. Detectives retraced Maricela's last known movements, starting with the surveillance footage from the Deep Ellum Club. There, clear as day, was Charles Beltran walking out with her on the night she disappeared. It was the last time anyone had seen her alive. Beltran, already a name on their radar, became the primary focus. Where had he taken Maricela? What had happened after they left? It didn't take long for investigators to uncover his connection to Lisa Dykes and Nina Morano. The pieces were starting to fall into place, and when authorities connected him to the house in Mesquite, where Maricela was believed to have been killed, they knew they were closing in. What happened next was almost predictable. When police began tightening their investigation, Charles Beltran panicked. He didn't want to take the fall for this murder, especially since he hadn't wielded the knife. So, in an attempt to save himself, he did what many do when faced with a murder charge. He started talking. His confession wasn't heroic. He wasn't motivated by guilt or remorse. He was motivated by self-preservation. According to Beltran, he had brought Maricela back to the house, believing it was just another casual night. He admitted that Lisa Dykes had arrived home unexpectedly and flew into a jealous rage. And when the attack happened, he claimed he had done nothing but flee the scene. But was that the whole truth? Regardless, his testimony was enough to turn the heat onto Lisa Dykes and Nina Morano. When police went to arrest the two women, they did something unexpected. They ran. Lisa and Nina, knowing that the walls were closing in, decided to flee to Cambodia in a desperate attempt to avoid justice. They were now fugitives, and authorities had to track them down before they disappeared for good. For months, it seemed like they might get away with it. But in February 2022, U.S. Marshals, working with international law enforcement, located the couple in an upscale area of Cambodia. They were taken into custody and extradited back to the U.S. to face justice for Maricela's murder. Lisa Dykes, the woman whose jealousy had turned deadly, was charged with murder. Her wife, Nina Morano, faced charges related to covering up the crime. As the trial unfolded, the details of the night Maricela was killed became horrifyingly clear. The rage, the violence, the cold-blooded disposal of her body. Lisa had acted with intent. And while Nina may not have stabbed Maricela, she had helped cover it up. She had helped erase a life. Beltran, having cooperated with authorities, managed to secure a deal. He avoided the harshest punishments, but his involvement would forever stain his name. Lisa Dykes was ultimately convicted of murder. She was sentenced to life in prison, a punishment that ensured she would never walk free again. Nina Morano also faced justice, though her charges were less severe. For Maricela's family, the sentencing brought a small sense of closure, but it would never be enough. Their daughter, their sister, their friend, she was gone. Nothing could bring her back. Maricela's family was devastated. The vibrant young woman who had loved life so fiercely had been taken from them in such a senseless and brutal manner. Her loved ones held vigils in her memory, demanding justice and reminding the world that Maricela was not just a victim. She was a daughter, a friend, and a woman with dreams and ambitions. The case also sparked discussions about polyamorous relationships, power imbalances, and the dangers of unchecked jealousy. It served as a stark reminder that love, when twisted by obsession and control, can turn deadly. To this day, Maricela's family continues to fight for awareness, hoping that her tragic story serves as a warning to others. Her life was cut short by the darkness of human emotions gone unchecked. And in the end, what should have been a night of fun and adventure turned into an unspeakable nightmare.